Hello, welcome to Train Signal. This is the Creating and Managing Groups lesson in the System Center 2012 Operations Manager Training course. Why would you want to use groups in Operations Manager 2012? Well, believe it or not, there are some very good reasons. Starting with, it can make IT more efficient in its overall operations. After all, managing something as a single entity rather than a whole bunch of the same kinds of objects can save significant time in administration over the course of a year or even a month. You're also able to maintain object consistency in Operations Manager. In other words, you're managing similar objects in similar ways because you're managing them as a group. And because there are fewer objects to manage, it's just easier to adhere to company policy with regard to those objects. It's less likely that you'll find a reason to create an exception out of one of the objects in your environment. A group is just a combination of objects in Operations Manager that you can then manage or monitor as a single entity. There are simply times when you need to be able to view the status of or perform operations against a variety of related or even not related objects in Operations Manager. For example, suppose you want to be able to closely monitor hard drive space for all of your servers. In this case, you could create an Operations Manager group to make it easier and simply add all the hard drives to the group. Or perhaps you want to delegate specific monitoring duties to someone else and you want to limit what he or she's able to see in Operations Manager. This is a place where groups can come in handy and help you both operationally and from a security perspective. For a demo for this particular topic, we're going to watch the status of monitored volumes in servers as a group. We're going to create a new group using what's called the Create Group Wizard. We're then going to learn how to add objects to the group. You can add objects explicitly or dynamically, and then if you do that, you can have explicit exclusions. For example, suppose you say, I'm going to add all of my Windows Server 2008 R2 machines drives to this group except my print servers. That would be an explicit exclusion. I'll then show you how to view the group state and view a group diagram, and then add the group view to the monitoring tab so that you can watch basically this custom group in action in your environment. And without further ado, let's go over to the Operations Manager system and do some group work. And here we are, back over in the Operations Manager console for Global Mantix. And as you can see, this time we've gone to a different area of the console, the authoring area. Specifically, I've selected groups because that's the topic that we're most interested in for this particular lesson. You can see that there are already a number of groups that are created in Operations Manager, and many of them will be reflected on the Operations Manager's monitoring tab that we'll see in a little bit. But if we go over here, you'll see all kinds of groups of pieces of information. We have groups of Windows computers here. We have DC State Group. There's all kinds of groups that have been created because of the management packs that have been added to Operations Manager. I will, however, go back to authoring. And we've got groups. To get started, click the Create a New Group option from the action area. Now, we're going to create a new name for this group. Remember, this is going to be all of the drives in our computers, so we'll just call this Logical Disks. Actually, we'll start with Custom. Logical Disks. These will be the hard drives in all of our computers across the organization that we choose to add to this group. Now for a management pack, I'm going to put it into a management pack called Custom Groups. I already have this created. If you wanted to go ahead and create one, we'll do that as well. Click New. This allows you to create a management pack. I'm going to call this Custom Groups 2. Version number 1.0.0.0 is just fine. Click Next. We're not going to add any knowledge right now. And then click Create. And that's how easy it is to create your own management pack for storing custom objects such as groups that you have in Operations Manager 2012. And then when you come back to the Create Group Wizard, we're already destined for the Custom Groups 2 management pack. So click Next. Now, at the left-hand side of the page, you'll notice we have explicit members and dynamic members, as well as what are called subgroups and excluded members. I talked about explicit, dynamic, and excluded members briefly back in the PowerPoint, but now we're going to see it in action. With explicit members, we're going to just decide directly which objects we want to include in this group. So I could go to Add Remove Objects, and we're going to search for objects. You can see there's a whole list of items here that we could be searching for. We are looking for logical disks in our servers. And I'll just click Search. And you'll notice that we get back a number of different items. A number of C drives and one E drive, because the server named Hyper-V5 has 2 logical drives defined. For now, I'm just going to add DC1 directly, because we also want to learn how to use dynamic members. So I'll click Next. So click on Create/Edit Rules, and we are going to see that we have quite a number of different device classes from which we can choose. Well, again, I want a logical disk for servers. So I'll add that. So, if it's a logical disk for a server, we're going to take it. Click Next. We could choose to add or remove subgroups if we wanted to. Basically, if you want to add another class of object to this group, you could. We don't have any subgroups right now, so we're simply going to click Next. And if we wanted to specifically exclude an object, we could tell Operations Manager, okay, I want to find the logical disk for a server. Search for file 1, and I want to exclude it from our group. And click OK. And then, to finalize the process, simply click the Create button. And this will save our new group using the parameters that we just specified in the Create Group wizard. You can see that we've got our group created now, and we've also got some items over here at the right-hand side of the screen that we can use, including View Group Members. Now let's see if our rules really worked. Well, we do have a bunch of items here, so we know that our dynamic inclusion rule worked because there's more than one item. Remember, we only added one item explicitly to the group, and that was the system drive for the domain controller, which we see at the very top of the screen. But we also have all those other items. We have the C drives and an E drive from the rest of the systems in our organization, except for file 1. And that's good, because remember, we did an explicit exclusion for file 1. We didn't want to see it here, for whatever reason, but it was specifically excluded from our group. So you learn how to explicitly add a member to a group, dynamically include a member to a group with a pretty simple query, and then exclude members from a group if desired. And then close the group state or the group membership list. Just click close the window. And we're going to view the state of the group. Well, there's the state of the group, right? Just like we saw sort of before. But this time we're seeing a little bit more information. We have some healthy, we have some unhealthy, and we've also got one critical as well. This gives us some information about how every item in this particular group is working. And you can see that we're looking at a whole lot of different items. Now for this one, we're not really looking at a whole lot because there's no check marks. But if we were to continue to go over, we would find something that would give us some information about what's being monitored. But we know we're watching the disk space because that's what we told it to watch in the Operations Manager group creation process. Now you can also view a diagram of the group. Now Operations Manager diagrams, frankly, are sort of hit and miss in my book. They're sometimes great, and sometimes they're not so great. In this case, we have custom logical disks, that's our group, and we can see that we get a little bit of a different view. And if we click the plus next to 1, we'll get a little bit of information down here about that particular disk. But this is not a particularly helpful view, but it does give you just kind of a different look at how Operations Manager sort of can view the environment. However, you're probably not going to want to constantly view your disk information from this particular screen. You probably want to view it from the monitoring area. Now, we're going to go over and add health information to the monitoring area. But before we go over there, I want to mention one thing. Remember, we stored the group into a management pack called Custom Groups 2. That's going to be important when we get over to the monitoring area, which we're at. Notice there's a Custom Groups 2 folder. This was created when we created that management pack, and it's kind of important. Here's the thing, and it's kind of a limitation I don't like in Operations Manager, and it's a little frustrating and often confusing. If you create a group like we just did, you have to associate any views you put onto the monitoring area with the same management pack that into which you saved the group. Now, this management pack also created Custom Groups 2 that we see here. If we attempt to create a health view in any other folder, we're going to get an error that's relatively cryptic and talks about not being able to save information into sealed management packs and unsealed management packs and all that good stuff. What it boils down to is we have an unsealed management pack, which is an unprotected management pack that we can change. That's the whole purpose of creating a custom management pack. However, it comes with it a limitation. We can't save information between sealed and unsealed management packs. We could later on seal this management pack if we want to and then put this view anywhere we want, or we can simply choose to use the folder that was created for us, which we're going to do for this demonstration. So I'm going to right-click Custom Groups 2, and I'm going to choose New, and I want to get a state view. And I'm going to call it My Disks, and I'm going to choose the group that we just created, Custom-Logical Disks, and click OK. And for this, that's really all I've got to do. Now, I can show you the display tab. There's not much to see there. Here, you can see that you could choose some additional items if you wanted to, but we're not going to. We're just going to keep the defaults for our purposes. And then click the OK button. And this is where I've learned the hard way. You've got to be a little bit patient, because if you start clicking around, you're going to get confused. Operations Manager is working its magic right now. It's saving your new view. And you'll see a couple things flicker here and there. Might even see a short health diagram pop up on the screen. But what's happening behind the scenes is Operations Manager is preparing everything for your viewing. And you can see that an item called My Disks just appeared in the navigation area at the left-hand side of the screen. And shortly, we should see actual health information appear. There we go. This is a health view, state view of the disks that we created in the group. And that is how you add a group to the monitoring area in Operations Manager. And that, my friends, is a discussion on groups. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to seeing you in the next lesson.